We're rocking and rolling on episode 15 of 84 Feet with Cady and Cap. I'm Brian Cady. That's Brian Capitula. Don't forget, we're on Twitter. Yes, I refuse to call it X at 84 Feet Podcast. And you can also email us if you have any questions, comments, stories, whatever it may be. 84 Feet Podcast at gmail.com. Cap, you just wrapped up as we're recording this on July 3rd. You just wrapped up session 2 of the network over the weekend over at Impact. Heard a lot of positive feedback from players and even coaches saying, "Yeah, this is great." What was the feedback you guys heard, and what did you think of the competition that was there this
Oh, it was
weekend?
really good. Other than it taking up like about 20 hours of a Saturday and Sunday, just because you feel like you have to be there. But it was great. Had a lot of good teams come in. I think every game we had, other than a few, were within like 15, 20 points. So everything was below that, and there was some barn burners, last second shots, and then the high level teams. We got to see a few of the better players from here. Joe Girardi was in the building. His daughter plays on Empire Blue Flames. So got to see her play, and she's as solid as he was on the field. She's as solid on the court. So we're really cool to see some of the better players. And Julia Scott, who's really good. Asia, that plays for Team Northeast, so good. So it was good to see and have it right in our backyard.
I'm trying to remember Julia Scott.
She plays for Albertus Magnus.
Albertus, that's right.
Yeah.
I knew it was a double A or triple A. I couldn't remember the exact name of the school. That's right. I remember seeing her at States back in March, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
So
she's tough.
yeah,
She's a tough. She's got some ACC stuff and things like that for a reason. She's still getting better as a 10th grader.
did
Now
her
11.
squad play at Gym Rat previously?
They did not. They went to a different event at that same time. So they ended up not. This was the first time they had come up there. They had planned on it and then they hadn't come up. But Empire does a great job. They have a bunch of really good talented kids.
Gotcha. Well, I know that we've got you on a random week off for now. We'll save for next episode the craziness of your travels that are coming up. But in the meantime, our guest for this episode is somebody looking forward to have a conversation with. Not only because he has ties back to the America East Conference as a player at UNH, and then as an assistant under Will Brown at UAlbany, but is now the new head coach for Guilderland varsity girls basketball. My opinion, great hire by Dave Austin, the folks over there in Guilderland, and we're proud to have him on the show now. Jeremy Friel. Jeremy, hello, sir. How are you today?
Brian, I'm well. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. First things first. Let's just get into how this all went down because there were a few different openings that were around Section 2, but uh, how did things come to be where you were part of the process in the coaching search for Guilderland and ultimately you making the decision to come on board and join Guilderland as the new head coach?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity, and think it's great what you guys are doing for Section 2 and girls basketball, and um, being out here now since 2005, 19 years. Like, I know how important high school sports are in the capital region. Working at UAlbany, we used to say we were Albany, Siena basketball, like top two, right behind high school sports in terms of media coverage, with the 5 television stations and 3 newspapers. So we were honest with recruits saying, hey, high school sports get the first go, and then it's Siena and Albany basketball right after that. So it was really a perfect storm of events that led me to being the girls varsity basketball coach at Gilland. One, my relationship with Dave Austin, the athletic director. I've known him for 8 to 10 years through my job that pays the bills, Excel Sports fundraising. So after leaving UAlbany in 2014, the last 10 years, I've helped athletic programs all throughout the capital region and now and beyond raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, for their athletic programs, from club teams to classes to sports. So I've worked in the Guilderland with Guilderland sports programs in the past. Started with my boss, John Rudick, and then have built relationships doing sales, really. throughout the capital region. So I've known Dave for 8 years. We're really good friends. He reached out to me about the position and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" And I live very close to Guilderland, right there on the town line. I have a daughter who's going to be in 5th grade. She plays Guilderland youth lacrosse. So we're kind of like on the line of in between of being really involved in sports and not, and there's no pressure to play for her or my son. If you want to play sports, fantastic. That's great. That's how we grew up. Like, we'll give you every opportunity if you want to be. But then I want to be a bigger part of a community, right? Going to these practices for my children, seeing who's coaching, seeing how they're run. I'd be there anyway. And I'd be like, I wish I'd probably tweak this drill here. Doesn't matter the sport, just from a lifetime of growing up and coaching and just being at the fields and at the gym. So it started with Dave, and I think he's one of the best athletic directors. He cares about the coaches. He wants all his programs to be successful, and he's trying to build up Guilderland athletics in entirety and doing it the right way. So he sold me on young talent, and then I said, I wouldn't be interested if you want to be a really good program at a public school, I think you have to be there daily. So I will actually be in the building daily, working in the building, and that allows some other benefits to my family situation. So I love to coach. I like and people say, why'd you get out of Division I college coaching, right? Like, it's the dream. It's amazing. It's fantastic. You get free gear. You travel the country. You get a chance to be on ESPN. You get to go to March Madness in the NCAA tournament, what we did 4 times while I was there. That's great, but it's exhausting. And if you want to have a family, like, you're really putting a lot of stress on your partner and my wife. And my dad coached for 20 plus years at the University of New Hampshire. I was 6 when he was transitioned to development. So I got to go to everything with him and be around. So I know the benefits of growing up in a gym and having access to a gym. Like, there can't be said, like, I got my key card and we got the key to the gym. My kids were like, we can come here anytime we want. I'm like, pretty much. So those benefits with, I wouldn't say the bar's low at Guilderland. Like, I think I can have an impact on the girls' side right away. And, I talked with my wife and I said, thankfully my job with Excel Sports, my boss is great. Have to work some things out. And he's like, no, it sounds like a really good between working the school, coaching. That's what you like to do. And, it's a 10-year plan, really. And we'll see if it goes further than that, if I get through year 1. But, started with Dave. Dr. Wiles, superintendent, was great. Mike Piscatelli, the principal, were great. Like, and you guys know, Section 2 girls basketball, they want to win. And so far, 6 workouts in, I'm happy so far with who's been showing up. I'd love to have more kids show up. But I mean, that's really the gist of it in a 5-minute nutshell. A perfect storm. I'm happy for the storm. I'm excited for the opportunity, but it's going to be a lot of work. I mean, Captula, it's not, and I'm not just the varsity girls basketball coach. Like, I'm everybody, and we have a great youth program with 200 kids in it with some great parents that are running that. And I actually work with them for fundraising. So I've known they're doing the right things to try to get the program, and then they get to high school, and it has been successful as much lately. And, girls go play other sports if they're winning. And I get that. So trying to get some athletes to come back to the girls basketball program that maybe played basketball in the past. And hopefully my background and my positivity and, word of mouth with the kids, that's your best sales, right? Brian, they come into the workout. I say, tell your friends, like, we're going to have a good time. We're going to work hard, and, and we're just going to try to get better every day and see where that takes us. All right. Great show. I'll see you guys later.
That's it. That was one breath too.
That was it.
So obviously you're making a little bit of a transition, coaching with U Albany and being a coach at Sage prior, on the boys side, and now transitioning over to the girls side. How much do you think, how much different, obviously I don't coach much differently if they're boys or girls, I don't really care. Do you feel like you're going to have to change your coaching style at all, in terms of how you just go about doing things? Because now you're coaching a female athlete versus a male athlete?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the really good student athletes, Brian, they want to be coached. All right. And I always, there's really two types of coaches, right? There's coaching in a negative way, and that's by like threats, and and there's coaching in a positive way. And I'm the positive reinforcement, and we're going to get better. Right. So no, I coach them hard. And again, it goes to saying they don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. Like that's where I'm trying to build the trust, because there's been some trust lost in the program. And setting a new standard, right? Like it's standard of just letting me know you're going to be at the workout, right? It's not just an open gym where you can come and please like let me know so I can plan accordingly. Sure. But yeah, so no, it's relationships, and that from Albany. Only thing that helped give me is like that was 24/7. So all you had to worry about was that and recruiting, right? Now I have a job on the side, and then I have a family, and I got to try to practice plan and make sure everything is on point. And then you still make sure your youth program is, running smoothly, because that's your future. There's no recruiting that I know about or a portal to pull kids in. So no, it's just getting better and giving them access, right? And having a young family, my kids have been great going to the gym so far for 2 hours. They're like, this is awesome. And my daughter has people to look up to. So no, there's no coaching different ways. And my brother Keith trains young ladies up in New Hampshire. He played at Notre Dame in Virginia. He was the captain at Virginia. And he prefers coaching. Like they don't think they have all the answers. They want to be coached. It's all right. What do I need to do to get better? Right.
Sure.
So no, I think, everybody wants to be coached. They want to coach hard, and then you'll reap the benefits of their hard work.
Now, just to go back to something you brought up earlier on, you mentioned your father being a coach at UNH for 20 years there, from 1969 to 1989, and then transitioning out of that when you were younger, around I think it was around 6 or 7. You mentioned, what was it about being around that atmosphere growing up that just stuck with you and really helped cultivate your passion for basketball, and how it impacted the path you have taken in your life into really focusing on sports in general, but also specifically basketball?
Yeah, I think it's kind of you had role models, right? His players used to babysit us. Like we didn't have a ton of money. Coaches didn't make a ton of money back then. It was my mom was working full time. I'm one of 5 kids. So he once he had his 4th kid, I mean, he had his best year when I was born. He had his best team, 82, 83. After that, then it was downhill at number 4. And partly was they didn't give not a great resources. But no, I think you going to practices, going to games, you didn't know how good you had it. But then he also ran a basketball camp at Phillips Exeter Basketball Academy. So Phillips Exeter Academy up in Exeter, New Hampshire. It's one of the best prep schools academically in the world. And the program by Jay Tilton has done a great job. So every summer we would actually pick up and do 8 weeks and live on campus. They get paid a lot of money, but we got 4 mouths fed and housing. So we would leave Durham and go there. So I was a camp baby. So just being around coaches and the banter and knowing how that camaraderie, and then doing the drill stations. I used to run the clock till I was old enough to do it. My godfather would pay me in bubble gum. I'd go over, take the pen, push the little thing to get it back. Those old clocks, you'd have to put the pen in to push the button to go to the different number that you want. So I would do that during the station when I was young. And then I thought I was actually going to be a college basketball official, but the test is a little harder than you think, that IOBO test. And I'm not a great test taker. So I didn't pass that test, and then I ended up out here in Albany. But no, my father was great with relationships, and I think that tinkered out in me. And then I obviously wanted to fulfill my goal was only to be an assistant college basketball coach, and I kind of made my path with some help, obviously, to get there. And how I ended up at Albany is a whole other story. But yeah, you want to honor the past, right, while trying to pave your future. And I think that's kind of what I did. And now I got a 10-year break from coaching, and now I'm back in it.
Now with coaching, obviously, like everything comes down to at different levels, like the youth levels and everything. It's all about improvement. It's all about getting better and things like that. And to a point for us at the high school level, It should be the same way, but obviously there's some pressures that get put on either coaches or parents. Kind of get some pressure to kind of start winning. Like winning has to be important at some point. As much as people might want to say winning's not important, at some point it's important. How do you measure in terms of you? How do you measure success as a coach?
I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, right? Like we can say we measure success by being invited to your kids' weddings at graduating or their graduation parties that they want you a part of their life after they've left you, right? And then there's the bottom line wins and losses of, you are what your record says you are, right? Bill Parcells, Giants, right? Like, so when does the line start? I think the line starts right around varsity basketball, right? Like winning matters, like community matters. You're wearing the G at Guilderland and you're trying to put up a banner in your gym, right? Like that's leaving a legacy. You can play 6 million games in AAU, which is fantastic, but ultimately you're only really representing your community. And I think sometimes that's lost. Like, it's like, oh, I play on my club team. But am I going to club practice or am I going to basketball workout at the high school? Right. Like I'm finding that and I'm like, hey, no problem. As long as you're working on your game, like, no, I just want you at home doing nothing. Like if you're going to go to field hockey, open turf, fantastic. Like I want you to play all the sports. But ultimately I think it's your winning starts towards your varsity, like that varsity, because it matters in your community and they're putting in resources. And ultimately, if you're putting in the time, and I've said this even when I was fundraising, I'm like, there's no more selfish human in the world than a coach. Like people think that they're trying to screw a kid. Like, no, they're trying to win. Like they're just going to put the best people in position to help the team be successful. But I think some of it is some coaches are scared to over communicate sometimes, right? And scared of the parents and hope the AD is going to be the wall of defense. Where I've already tried to be from day one, like these is the standard, this is my expectation. Like you can come to the workout, but first 15 minutes you should be in there, and then the next, have your daughter will do better when you're not there. So slowly got to get in that because I'm new and I have to build trust with parents and families as well, right?
Sure.
So yeah, but winning is important. If we're gonna do it and spend all this time, then absolutely winning is important, and that's why I'm here, because they haven't won.
I like this dynamic that's kind of panned out here somehow. I guess Cap is going to focus on the present. I'm going to focus on the past. So we'll just bounce back and forth, I suppose. So just go back again. So you're coming out of high school in New Hampshire.
Yep.
You're a 1,000-point scorer. You're thinking about college, and obviously you ultimately decide to go to where your father used to coach at UNH.
Yeah.
Was UNH always in the front of your mind as like, that's where I want to be no matter what? Or were there other schools in the mix? Like, were you getting recruited out of high
I'll be
school?
honest.
What was that like?
I was happy as the fourth child, just hanging out, right? Like my brothers and sisters, like my sister led the path. My sister Jen, she got 3 out of 4 years at the University of New Hampshire. So she walked on, and for the first year we got half tuition because my dad worked there, and then she got a full scholarship after that. But that was worked out before she went there. Then my brother Keith, he was by far the best one in the family. Talented, like, so you have to be a little crazy to be like Power 5 level, like, and you have to be a little in a good way, like not taking anything. But his work ethic was in peril to anybody to see. Like he was working really, really hard to be really, really good. And my brother, so he went to Notre Dame and then transferred to Virginia. And then my brother Greg, he went to New Hampshire prep school. He had a prep year, so we're familiar with all the prep school stuff. Then he took a year off just so he could go to Dartmouth and get an Ivy League degree. So he was a 21-year-old freshman. So he ended up being the captain. Didn't have a great career, injuries and whatnot, but he was a captain at Dartmouth, and you can never take that away from him. And myself, I knew I just kind of wanted to be okay. So I knew that my goal was to be a Division I assistant basketball coach. So I had a nice career. I worked harder by my senior year in high school, finally put in the time to be better. I scored 1,000 points in 3 years. My siblings all did it in 4. That's my only claim to fame, but they all scored way more than me. And my younger sister, Jill, she's 8 years younger than me. So she ended up going to UNH on a scholarship. She played for the New England Crusaders back in, that was probably 2010s, even if they're earlier. She's 33, so 2006, 2007. Regardless, I played AAU. AAU wasn't huge, but I knew I was wanted to try to walk on. I actually didn't make the team my freshman year, even with my name, which is fine. It's a good wake-up call. I was a student manager for a year, so I set up everything, did practices, occasional road trips. And then I worked hard with my brother and lost 20 plus pounds and made the team as a walk-on as a sophomore. And then my college roommate, who was a starting point guard, got suspended, and I played 2 games at Miami and at Northwestern. Great trip, great experience. Got to hit 3 threes at Miami and play at Northwestern. So I had a great collegiate experience. I got to be a part of a Division I program, got to travel the country, knew I wanted to go into coaching. Didn't have scarce Division I career, but just happy to be a part of it, be in practice every day. And I like to say I was the best warm-up player in the Americas from 2002 to 2005. Layup line special. My mom would come early just to watch me at home games.
It's funny. What are the odds? Well, I told Brian I was going to be a couple minutes late before coming on like the show, but the new coach at Joe Rudilagano is New Hampshire coach. That's who I was on I was talking to before we came on this. So, and I didn't even know about New Hampshire for you. So
yeah, he's assistant there. Yeah,
he's the assistant now. He came from St. John's. So that's know Megan
yeah,
Schoenecker just filled out her.
Came from Rhode Island. Yep. No, so my sister Jill is she's on the athletic director's advisory board at UNH.
Okay. Yeah,
and
so it's
big and brave for women's basketball.
Cool.
Kelsey Hogan, who just stepped away, she's real best friends with my sister. So
it's a beautiful area, like the area up there.
Seacoast? You don't know until you leave it. You're 10 minutes from the ocean. The best warmest weather is September during hurricane season rolls through and it brings the warmer water up. I missed that part, but we got Lake George out here, and we're 2.5 hours.
That's about all. Yeah, don't swim in the reservoirs around here.
No, I wouldn't do that anywhere. Let's be honest.
Now, in terms of we can stay on the past with this, but so like prior players, current players, whatever it might be, like what 2 words would your players use to describe you as a coach and why?
Oh, all right. I would think they would, positivity, and fair. I think those are 2 words. I'm a very positive person. I think kids can get better just with hard work. Like I'm a glass half full. Will Brown would say you're an overflowing glass. So we balance each other out when it came to that. But yeah, no, the positivity and being fair. I think everybody deserves a fair shake. And yeah, that's really 2 words.
So this is you already said this is going to be an interesting story, so I might as well jump into it now. So you play for UNH in the America East.
Yeah.
So what in God's name made you leave UNH to come to Albany? Like conference rival?
Yeah. Did you know what you were going to do when you got out of college, when you were about to graduate your senior spring?
Well, I considering I went through 1 year of college, hell no, I had no idea. So
yeah, there you go. Well, no, so Chad O'Donnell, who was on staff for my whole time at UAlbany, he was an assistant at UNH for a year, and then he was at Bryant, and he tried to recruit my brother Greg to Bryant. It was college at the time. Now it's Bryant University. So he knew the family, all right, and the college basketball world is very small. And then so they needed a director of basketball operations, which at the time was for $7,500 in 2005, and it was supposed to be a place to live. So I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm going to do, but we can figure this out. No, I didn't do any grad classes. Probably should have. Came out, they put me up in a dorm, and then I got kicked out of the dorm after 2 weeks. And then they put me in a hotel. And then they told me that there was no more housing on campus because the campus was booming at that time. So there's no apartments for me to stay in, but they were going to give me a housing stipend. I was like, that's great. $500 a month, taxed. So after tax, that's like $330 a month. Plus I'm only making $7,500, but at 22, 23, like, all right, we'll just figure it out. Thankfully, my cousin was out here, lived on J Street down in Center Square. And I knew him, but I didn't know him. Like we weddings and whatnot. And I texted him like, hey, can I sleep on your couch? And he's like, yeah. So I slept on his couch for like 3 months, and between just living in the office because you have nothing else to do, and then running camps. But then his mother is my godmother, and then his father, they helped him get not his life in order, but like pushed him a little more. He's older than me. And then he bought a brownstone on J Street. So then I actually had a bedroom for a little while, but then he charged me $600 a month. I'm like, the math doesn't add up on this. Thankfully for my parents. And my mom always said that she'd help for 2 years the transition out of college. My mom and my dad like, hey, we'll help you for 2 years, but after 2 years, you kind of got to figure it out. So it was option for 2 years, but I came to Albany, one, because of Chad O'Donnell. Two, I didn't know what else I was going to do, and coaching seemed solid. I knew I wanted to coach. I'm like, that's a good avenue. And then three, I knew Albany was going to be really good because Jamar Wilson was just a stud. And the other had some other pieces. So I just didn't know at the time. Will didn't have any years left on his contract at that time. So then when Chad and I went to we joke about it now, we had a press conference for Will getting an extension. And I go, oh, so we got 2 now? He goes, no, shut up. That's for the one we got coming up this year. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So we got 1 year. And that was jumping into college basketball. So, yeah. And now I've been 19 years later.
The old bet on yourself kind of thing.
Yeah. But luckily, obviously, coming from a coaching family, dad connections, last name, then I was Chad O'Donnell.
Sure.
And then parents being willing to help support you for 2 years, and then getting some meal money at Christmas and being on the road, not recruiting, but some camp money to try to survive. But at that point, you're 22, you survived on whatever anyway. So
right.
Used to it. You don't know what you don't know. But.
Right. Not before we get into like kind of funny questions that aren't as serious, but in terms of like community support and everything like that, obviously you've been out in the community doing fundraisers and doing so many programs with the different sports programs around here and other clubs and everything. And obviously everyone's been watching the WNBA more this year, where they're moving games to bigger venues.
That's awesome.
and things along those lines. And it's a struggle always still, like even with teams with success to get fans in the gym. Anything that you have plans for in terms of that Guilderland gym without people in it gets cavernous in terms of the amount of like how big it is. They open one side up and it's a huge gym even with one
Great
side.
Gym. It's a beautiful gym. We got AC.
Beautiful.
You got
anything you plan on doing that can try to fill it up?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with winning. Having a successful program, Brian, right? And I think being in the building and having other students know me, I think that's a huge impact. And then you have to, again, if you have a feeder system of 200 kids, you have to try to get those kids to those games as much as possible. And also you have to go to other games, right? Like I have to go to fall sports games. If you want to support some people to support you in your community, you have to support them. So
Sure.
Yeah, Jen Sykes, field hockey is fantastic. I've known her. Her husband coached my wife at field hockey at UAlbany. She was on his first team back in 2005, 2006, maybe 4 too. So yeah, I'm used to the collegiate where you support every program. I'm not trying to steal any player. I want everybody to play the sport that they. And I said at our parent meeting, our meet the coach night, I said, I want you to play multiple sports because you might be the best player in basketball, but you might be the 10th best person in softball or lacrosse, and you're going to be getting different coaching and different roles. So like, it's only going to help you. I don't want you to accept your role. I just want you to embrace your role once that role is established. But no, you have to be in the community and you have to have parents want to support you, but every situation's different. A lot going on. There's so many youth sports. Like you can only be at one place at one time. And Tuesday, Friday nights scheduling. Like, hey, hopefully we're good enough and we're enjoyable enough to watch because we play really hard and we play together that people will want to come watch, and hopefully you can pull out the other bleachers that have the actual comfortable backs on them. But I don't know if that's possible yet. I haven't talked to Dave. Why do we have the bleachers that only have the flat bench and we have nice chair backs on the other side? Is that and I know that'd be closer parents to coaches so they can yell at me more, but we'll think. Small things, future.
Yep.
It's day by day, battle by battle. But yeah, you need community involvement because the kids want to play in front of people, especially if they're working really hard to try to get better and put a good product on the floor.
Now, going back to your time at U Albany for a second, obviously, uh, it would not be a complete show with having somebody that was on the coaching staff at U Albany in the 2000s and early 2010s without bringing up the head man in charge, Will Brown, who eventually has gone on to coach the Patroons and just finished doing a year with the College of St. Rose women before they closed down campus back in May. Um, Being able to work with Will, what was that like, and how much did he have an impact on the kind of coach that you have ultimately become, and now that you're going into Guilderland, how much do you feel like he's had an impact on who you've become?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, owe a lot to Will. He promoted me from operations to assistant, valued my opinion, and we would butt heads, and then we would still be, able to go to practice and do what we needed to do. It's a cutthroat business, and I always understood that the head coach again is the only thing they are focused on is winning. Like that's their ultimate job, and at that level, it is high stakes gambling. And I tell everybody, he was the CEO of a $2 million company, and he had to try to make it running and try to win championships. And extremely well organized, addicted to basketball. Like he'd be just dribbling, drawing plays down on the bus ride home. Like this is somebody wearing this. Like, what do you think about this? And be like, yeah. But he'd go home after games and stay up till like 3 o'clock in the morning because he wouldn't sleep, and he'd be watching Euro games or watching a late replay of an NBA West Coast game. Like complete addict when it came to that type of stuff. So preparedness and preparation, obviously you learn that. X's and O's, I don't think there's too many better than him. And I got him when he was 31 when I was there. So like he was young, so I kind of got to grow up with him, right? He was older, but like we had Chad who was older, that was a little older than him. Then we brought in Donnie Bassett, who obviously has a huge influence on him and myself as well. Like Donnie used to sit in my office, and he's won so many games at high school level, and he's all about the relationships and worrying about yourself more than your opponent. But scouting is important. We would dive head first into scouting, but sometimes we'd go overboard on scouting, so then we had to simplify it. So it was a great journey of figuring out the balance of how much information can you give players, how much can they retain, individual skill development, what's the breakdown of that, plus practice time, plus getting preparation for your next opponent, plus getting better throughout the season and not worrying about losses early and trying to be banging your best basketball in February and March. So I owe a great deal to Will in terms of just the opportunity to be in the room and being willing. Like we would have great conversations that we would all agree on, and then we'd have conversations where we didn't agree on things, and he would listen and take it, and then he'd be like, all right, get out of my office. So so it's good, but that's why we were successful for so many years, right? And ultimately at that level, recruiting is your bloodline, so you got to continue to, it helped that I brought in some Australians that were pretty good, so that gave me some grace in that world. But I like being in the gym, working, and and he was a great person to learn from and learn with while we were winning and losing. And we had one bad year, and you learn a lot more when you lose than when you win. So
sure. All right, so I have a couple lighthearted questions. I'll go two, and then Brian can go back. But so obviously you've had a couple open gyms and everything and workouts. What kind of music do you listen to, and does it translate over to what the girls also listen to?
How do you know I'm listening to music?
Do you listen to music during open gyms?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing I did, I'm in the hole for like hundreds of dollars right now. I'm losing money on coaching girls basketball right now. I got a speaker. Speaker was like the first purchase at like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, I need a boom box.
Yep.
Got Amazon Prime. Like, I'll let my wife see that later, but those aren't bad. It was only like $60. So country is a safe play right now.
Country.
But I have asked I asked Christina Williams, who I'm like, hey, Christina, what do you want to listen to? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, you want to phone a friend? And like, they don't even know what phone a friend means. And I was like, why don't you ask Maddie what she wants to listen to? She's like, Zach Bryant. All right, so we played some Zach Bryant. So now we got the music that not as many cusses, so I don't get fired in the first summer. But right now it's a safe country heat radio Amazon Music that's going. And until I have somebody that wants to step up to the plate that has earned it to choose the music for that workout. Next one will be Monday. What about you?
The aux is always important. We have music every practice, I think.
Oh, you got it.
That's important. I think sometimes like a quiet gym, we always try to say like a quiet gym's not usually a happy gym. So
it's not.
Same thing too. Like I bought 2 big giant spear. I'm like, oh, that's not a bad price. Let's get 2 of those. So same thing. Like that was my first purchase as a head coach too. So that's funny.
It's changed. Yeah, that wouldn't be back then. No,
I didn't hear it. Yeah.
Though, when Will would go out recruiting and I'd have individuals in the morning, I would be like, all right, each group we have it start at 7 a.m. And that's you're there at 6, and then we wouldn't leave the office till 7 or 8. So those were like long days. So I'd be like, all right, Will's out recruiting. It's me. I get the speaker for the PA system. It was SEFQ, now it's Broadview, and I bring out my phone and play it through that way. Like, hey, what do you want to listen to? All right, boom, boom, here we go. College kids, guys, they're missing a few more F-bombs that are dropping at 7 o'clock in the morning, but whatever it takes to wake them up.
For sure. And then in terms of like you do a ton of recruiting in terms of like at the college level and tons of film study and doing things in terms of scouting. Do you have a favorite midnight snack?
Favorite midnight snack? Peanut butter pretzels, hot dog bun.
I'm a peanut butter nut.
Teddy's Smooth. It's me. Teddy's, or it's all natural.
You say on a hot dog bun. You said on a hot dog bun.
On a Martin's potato bun. Put it in there. Make it like a hot dog. Peanut butter. Throw my whichever pretzels I have for that. If it's the sticks or the thing, but yeah, that's my.
Huh. I'll think about that one. I was supposed to think about that one. Now, so I've done a little digging here in the midst of
on the internet.
A little digging on the internet in the midst of the conversations we've been having. So I'm gonna run through a list of players. By all means, jump in if you hear a certain name that you have a story about, or you want to just discuss real quick. Maybe they were like an underappreciated talent while you're at UAlbany. I'm just going to throw names out there. Again, stop me whenever you want.
I don't know. It's going to be a dangerous game, Brian.
All right. So, actually, I'll just go one by one. First off, the Yachty brothers. John eventually became an assistant, I believe, if I remember correctly, after playing. And then his younger brother, Jacob. They were like a phenomenon on the UAlbany campus. I remember just the student section would go crazy for those guys. What was it about them that just brought that passion out of the UAlbany student base?
You're 5'0" and you're drilling 30-footers, right? So it's one John, who was one of the first recruits for Will. He was there before I got there, and he played 40 plus minutes a game as a freshman. Like that coach used to joke and say, I would tell him to throw the ball out of bounds so that he could get a breather, like just throw it out of bounds. Battled through a lot of injuries, but obviously smaller guys that shoot a lot of threes, and then had a great career, but injuries kind of made him just really a standstill shooter towards the end of his career. So John was at Quinnipiac as an ops, then he was an assistant at UAlbany with us. We overlapped 1 year, and now he's at Lowell as an assistant there, and maybe associate coach. And then Jacob, for one, great parents, great family, hardest workers in your program, sacrifice your body, will do anything for you. Jacob got a scholarship to High Point, then he came to UAlbany, sat out the year as a redshirt, and we gave him 2 out of 4 on scholarship. And Will always would like defend who we're going to defend on the other team. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. He's he can bang threes and he's a winner. And he finally got his opportunity, and boy, did he Jacob take advantage of it in terms of hitting some big threes in the America East Conference Championship at Vermont to really seal that one. Is that our second, or is that his second time there? I think as a senior. Yeah. But I mean, you didn't have to worry about him academically. Didn't have to worry about him socially. Like, just winner, winner, winner. And I think that starts with their parents that were just great, great people, and their work ethic is like second to none. Probably in the history of the program they've been there.
And I'll mention one more name before I let Cap jump back in. And it's a name you mentioned earlier, and he's like, he's the only number that's retired at UAlbany still, and that's Jamar Wilson. I know you referenced him at one point. If there was a player, I feel like that helped really launch UAlbany into being a regularly discussed contender in the America East under the tenure of Will Brown. I mean, the conversation pretty much starts with Jamar.
Yeah, and Will recruiting him out of our Savior New American down along Long Island, where just up the road where Will grew up and was from. So he had a relationship there and got Jamar, who was a little obviously scrawny when he came in as a freshman, but was rookie of the year. But I always say, usually rookie of the years are, that's how we say recruiting. Usually rookie of the years are on bad teams. Like they had not win a lot of games. And then they got some pieces around him. Will and the staff did a great job building that. But I mean, I watched Jamar firsthand when I was sitting on the bench at UNH, not playing, him drop 38, I think, in Lundholm on us. And that was my senior year. I'm like, oof, geez, he's going to be a problem. And he was only a sophomore. And he came back from injury. And then, again, you talk about a person that lived in the gym work ethic, like the shooting machine. He just got jump shot after jump shot after jump shot, like just and a sneaky good athlete, like really good athlete, and then a good human too. Like he just checks all the qualities. And then he had opportunities that if the portal was there, he would have made a ton of money in NIL. I mean, a lot of money, because he could have had some options that were trying to steal him from, but that year of having to sit out, plus I think his loyalty to Will, and Will coached him hard, man. Will coached him hard, and they'd have their battles, and ultimately we get right back to ultimately the bottom line is winning, right? And then Will set the tone with knowing that I'm going to coach my best player as hard as I'm going to coach my 13th to my 15th, like, and he had a standards, and that's that part of our respect of, like, you coach one, coach all, right? Like he held them to accountability, and this is how we're going to practice hard. We're going to make that time. We're going to make that sprint. Sometimes I thought we were unfair, but we had a lot of good players, especially those first two teams. Jason Siggers, junior college, and then we had Brent Wilson, Brian Lillis from Iowa, like role guys that were, and then Kirsten Zollner, 7-footer. Like, so staff did a great job. Like I obviously had nothing to do with that. I was just making sure everybody was fed, and then the cards were set up with Will's on top when we got to the hotel, and the TV cart was ready, and the edit was ready to go, and all that other stuff that teaches you organization and how to be on point and accountability on that sense in terms of the real world. I mean, actually, it's not the real world. It's not. People think it's way more important than it is. Being out of it, it's not that important. Everything is not life or death. Like, people just get so wrapped up in it, think it's the be all end all. But no, I named some other friends, and then we didn't even talk about Hooley and his shot. So it's just so great run. Hooley hit that shot the year after I left, but the great run. 20 years at any one institution is incredible. Like, that's never going to be done at UAlbany again. Like, it's rarely done at any Division I program. So, Will, tremendous job, and he'll be coaching somewhere, I'm sure.
And that Hooley shot was like 11:30 in the morning too. Most people weren't even awake yet.
That was the best. I love that. You fire up the mimosa, you put on some college hoops at 11 a.m. And then being the best part about being a part of it is that you were done at 1. So you just had the rest of the day to relax, watch other games,
right?
Celebrate your victory, and then Selection Sunday was the next night. And then by that, we're trying to figure out who you're playing and get edits and film on there. And film back in early on was all VHS tapes.
Right.
So these people that are in film exchange and video coordinators now, everything's clicked on the internet. Or I had to make like 8 copies of VHS, one at a time, like 2 triple deck on like VCR recorders, and hit record, and then let it play out for the hour and a half. And then if you had an overtime game, it was like, oh, you got to put on a second VHS tape, and then you had to ship it. I don't miss those days at all.
Glamorous
FedEx,
jobs. Everyone thought
FedEx
that
number,
it was.
yeah, FedEx number 001.
So in terms of, obviously, on or around, like, I would say December 6th, when their season may start, the 3rd, the 6th, right around then, what kind of team will we see Guilderland be? Will we see like a defensive-minded team? Will we see a really offensive-minded team? Like, in the perfect world, what is your team identity that you'd like it to have if they're gonna be just like how you want them to be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you said it, in a perfect world, right? Workout 6, just trying to get majority of people to show up. And I understand that it's summer too, like, right? Like college, kids are there for summer school, 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm a quality of life person. That's partly why I got out of college coaching. Like, I want balance. Like, I want you to go on vacation. I want you to play other sports. I want you to think. And I understand, I only have so much time. So, it'll be a big 2 weeks leading up to December 6th. But in terms of team identity, I just talk about 3 things, and partly it carries over from UAlbany. I just want to defend and rebound and get a quality shot. And I'm getting quality. And it used to be just get a shot, and I prefer to get a quality shot. So take care of the basketball, defend and rebound. And you want to play unselfish basketball, right? You want kids to share the basketball, and be willing to share the basketball and not shoot it every single time down. So there's got to be some balance there. But a team that plays hard, that cares about each other, things that people don't realize that you coach, and Kevin, this is, you got to teach a timeout. Like, you got to teach where kids stand. You got to teach to see what 5 are in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spot lineup, so I know who's in. You have to teach, go help your teammate up. You have to go teach how to take a charge. Like, things people take it for granted and just assume like, oh, they just know how to do that. No, like, that is practiced. Like, we're sprinting over. We have 30 seconds. This is the timeout. This is where we're standing. This is how we're doing. If you're not in, you're behind. So I think the hard task of mine is trying to figure out how to do all that in between now and December 6th, as well as, more or less, you got to be able to, and I learned that from Donnie Bassett, is doesn't matter what offense you run, doesn't matter what defense you run. It's like, you got to be able to break pressure. If you can't break pressure, it does not matter any of the other stuff. So got to get that press break in for all levels.
All right, so I've got a few more questions. Number one, obviously recruiting is a huge thing for any college sports program, but I'm curious because you guys eventually land at UAlbany. Luke Devlin, Peter Hooley, and the Rowley brothers, all from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Who established that Australia pipeline, and like how did you get 4 kids from Australia to be like, hey, why don't you come fly 14-16 hours over to Albany, New York?
It's 14 to LA, and then it's
well, come not just across the ocean, but then across a whole nother country to come play college hoops. How do you establish that relationship with the players and their families, and getting them to buy into the idea of coming to UAlbany in that case?
Yeah, I mean, it's a multi-layer answer. It was established from my relationship with a former college teammate at UNH. So Phil Collins, we had 2 Australians, Blagoy Yanov and Phil Collins. He was a freshman, I was a senior. So when he eventually transferred, went to Division II, he played Division II, made it to Elite 8 with North Alabama. He went into coaching as well. He was graduating, and I actually said, hey, we're going to have an assistant spot on the women's side. If you are interested, I can help you get with Trina Patterson, who right now is the head coach at UNC Greensboro. And she only had 1 year on her contract. So I said, hey, you can come. It's a great opportunity to build your resume and see what it's like. So he did. So he graduated, came to UAlbany as an assistant. They unfortunately got let go in the spring, but he had been around our program. So he knew what the centers we had, what players, like and obviously playing at a high level Division II and Division I briefly, he had an idea of who would be successful. So he ended up going back to Australia and working with, I think ended up being in the Northern Territory. I don't know if that was right away, but he was going to the club level, under 18s, under 19s. Everything's run like legitly. Basketball is very, very important in Australia, and they're extremely well coached, and they'll run through a brick wall for you. And again, you very rarely had to worry about them academically. So he was at the under 18s or under 20s, and he texts me, he goes, "Hey, I got a kid here, Luke Devlin. He's from Sydney. I know the family." I think because Phil was coaching in Sydney at that time with, I think it was Newington College, but that's really high school. And so we sent some film. He goes, "Hey, he's flying over. He's definitely good enough, but based on the bigs that you have now, and he's flying over and taking some unofficial visits." So he went to like Augustine State, San Jose State, and Hartford at the time had some Aussies. They had started going that route too, as well as Texas, I believe. So he came in for an unofficial visit, and he played with the guys, and he was good enough. They got back, and you can't teach 6'8", skilled, great mid-range game, could hit the occasional three that we eventually worked on. So after convincing, again, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And knowing, especially if you're going to send your kid across the globe, knowing that they're going to take care of you and look after you, we were able to convince him to not go to San Jose State and come to Albany, and that was the first bit. First one, Luke Devlin took the giant leap of faith because back then we couldn't pay for their flights or anything. Like they coming over there paying, that's an expensive flight. He wants me to go to his wedding in March, which now I won't be able to. But it's like, I'm like, dude, you guys have been paying that all this time? So he started, had a great rookie year, made the all-rookie team. And again, like 4.0 student, like extra work, always in the training room, like epitome of a student athlete, like to the nth degree. So he started, we had a good, now Will's like, all right, we're 1 for 1. So then same thing, we had Roley, and then it was Hooley. We took them sight unseen based on film. So we trusted Phil, we trusted the people we knew. And again, Luke, once you have one, they recruit for you. I mean, just like any program, right?
Right.
So Luke was heavily involved in recruiting Sam Roley and Peter. And again, an adjustment for the rigors of college basketball. Pete got hurt his freshman year, redshirted because he had a stress fracture. So that's why he ended up doing 5 years. And then Sam obviously didn't play a lot his freshman year. And then you talk about these like garbage postseason tournaments. We went to the CIT and hosted Manhattan, and we had some injuries, and he ended up playing, and he goes for like 10 and 9. And it was like, oh, you okay? And his game's super unorthodox. Like you can't even, he was really hard to coach because he's right-handed, but he's much better with his left. Like he would right left hand, but shoot right-handed. So then once we gave him the confidence to go, then he went, and then Hooley got much better, and then we took Michael Roley, Sam's younger brother. He actually paid his first year, and then we gave him a scholarship. So we did 3 out of 4 with him. And then there was a couple other Aussies that were more towards after I left. But yeah, that's how the pipeline started. My dad, again, always said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And relationships, the game of life is about relationships. And, that was a relationship that you don't know at the time when you're, at a bar in New Hampshire as a college kid, and you're, becoming good friends. And then long last, he's going to help get me players because I'll be coaching at UAlbany, and then the kid's going to hit a game-winning shot that through history to, in his mother's honor. So crazy world. Stars aligned.
Last UAlbany question I want to bring up before we bring it more modern. A good friend of mine who actually passed away a couple years ago, Pat Fillion, was on the coaching staff for your future years on the bench at UAlbany. What was Pat like on the court, off the court, and yeah, just talk about Pat a little bit. What he was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, Pat obviously won 3 American Championships at Vermont, so that's how we knew him. And then when I came in, it was 3 new assistants for Will our first year. So it was Eric Eaton, who's now the head coach St. Michael's, Pat, and myself, and Chad was the only guy left with Will. So there was a new camaraderie, new relationship building. Obviously, I was new. Eric was out of the business for a year, but he was with Ralph Willard at Holy Cross, and he ran things like Ralph Willard ran things like a tough, like the Army. But Pat was bigger than life. He was always happy. I mean, his family was everything to him, and it's great to see his kids do so well. And now his daughter's at what? Did she go to Stony Brook, or did she choose somewhere else? I think she's ended up at Stony Brook, right?
Yep.
And then Marcus played for Killings last year and his 5th year at UAlbany. So Pat, great relationship person. Everybody in the business knew him. Life of the party. Loved his family. Loved being in the gym. Just an overall great human. So it was very sad when all that went down, and it's a crazy world. But no, couldn't say enough good things about Pat.
Yeah, it's great to see because actually when he was at Albany, because he was at Albany Academy for a couple years.
Because Pat played for Frush at Southern Vermont for back in the day. Yep.
Yeah.
And
so
they're still in the area. So
yeah. So the first year Pat came in to coach JV for Brian Fruscio.
Yep.
I was an assistant for freshman and helped run some of the JV practices with Pat. So, and during that time too, Marcus was still at Academy as a student.
Yep.
So it was good. It's good to see that Marcus was able to go on, play in the Ivy League, and then basically come home for last year. It was pretty cool to see that. Now bring it to modern day. Obviously we talked about recruiting, but now fast forward to 2024, recruiting is a whole different animal. You briefly mentioned the transfer portal at one point. I know NIL was mentioned in passing earlier. You look at how recruiting was when you were an assistant, D1 assistant, and where it is now. Obviously, I mentioned different animal. If you were still in the game as an assistant at D1, how different would your approach be now than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago when you were recruiting?
I think it depends what level you're on, right? I mean, the Power Fives and the big boys, they have all the money, and they're just transferring it from either those people are giving it to the university, and now they're giving it to a collective and an NIL, which hopefully eventually it all goes back into the university and they can help have some guardrails and oversee it. I've always been a proponent, like coaches shouldn't be the ones getting paid. Like, why is Nick Saban getting $20 million or $10 million? Why is Calipari getting $8 million? Like, they're not scoring the buckets. They're not doing it. Like, spread the wealth. Especially in a world of the demographic is usually more diverse, underprivileged, and can use that money. I mean, you look at the offensive linemen in football, like they're doing all the dirty work, and these guys are walking around after college football and they can't move, and we're not going to take care of them, right? I mean, so I've always been a proponent for student athletes. Like, they'd be so silly. Why can't I give so-and-so a ride across campus? Like, that's a violation. Like, it's pouring out. That makes no sense whatsoever. Like, there'd be so many asinine rules that you're like, wait, what? Like, I can't take him I can only take him for a meal once a month. Like, if you want to have the kids over your house, you get it through compliance, make sure you're not doing that. Like, silliness. Like, just stuff that didn't make sense, but made those at the top have no issues, right? Everybody's getting fed up top, then us down below are not getting as much. So now, what would I do differently? I think the mid-major level, again, you have to now try to build a collective in NIL. I know America East just passed like the Aniston policy or whatever, so they're gonna be able to give some academic type funds, like $6,000 for each men's and women's basketball player towards academic, like computers, stuff that you couldn't give them money for. I'm sure people will be creative on things that you need. But No, all for it. I think, again, it still goes back to relationships, Brian. Like, those people are still going to the well. Now I just have to pay for the well. Before, it was just either going through the coach, the AU coach, the prep school coach. It wasn't getting directly to the person. Like, it was,
Right.
there was just other ways to circumvent it. Now it just put everything out in the open. Like, people were getting paid. They just weren't getting paid as much because everybody was skimming on the way down to the bottom. Not necessarily at UAlbany, the lower low level, but the big boys, that's always been happening. So that part, it's nice that it's just out in the open. And now you know exactly where I should say, to an extent, because there's some language that's now you're not allowed to talk about it for whatever it is. I try to keep up, but again, I think it comes back to relationships. Yes, you can go. The big boys are going to pay. I mean, what did it say? Baycott said he made $2 million from North Carolina. I just saw him on a podcast.
Yep.
But he brought in how many millions for the university? So
right.
I got no issue with it. But I think it still goes back to relationships. Those same kids, those same coaches that are helping guide them. Now the money's going directly to the kid. And bottom line, I think it's better. If hey, so-and-so is offering you 50 and you can confirm that they're giving you $50,000, then I'd be like, you know what? Congratulations. Like, go take that money. I got to go find someone that's going to appreciate $10,000.
Right.
And hope that I can beat them. Because money is, talent doesn't work hard. Work hard is going to be talent every day of the week.
And I think the hardest part is for a lot of these coaches is, I know me, you, Brian, we all had coaches, and relationships were like the biggest things for all of us. But you listen to some of the coaches, even like Coach Cal talk, and those guys talk. Like, I think Saban's getting out of it because a lot of his stuff is relationship, and now at this point, there's really little that goes into it that is a relationship for a lot of these teams. Like, it's a matter of, hey, this NLI collective can get $100,000 for this kid. Let's not try to piss them off, kind of thing. So I think some of the coaching is getting taken out of actual like basketball a little bit because if you listen to the guys that are at the top, and there's been coaches like Boeheim and those kind of guys, I think they're getting to the point where they're like, all right, money's taking over, and I can't build relationships because of it, because this guy might leave next year. So like, do I need to learn his dog's name, his cat's name, his brother's name, and his sister's name? He might only be here for 1 year, and I wasted my time for what reason? So
you're bringing up obviously the bigger boys who have already made tens of millions of dollars off all these student athletes. So I only have it from perspective too of my brother who's at Virginia. His NIL would have been fantastic too. Like, he was an extrovert. He could have been out. He could be killing it making money. Like, he missed his window. But there's a reason why the coaches now that are ones that are doing so well in college basketball, definitely on the men's side, and the majority of them have junior college experience. So the junior college experience is not, I would say, more transactional. All right. But they have to build a team every single year.
Yep. So
they've been trying to do that nonstop. So now when you go from JUCO to Division I, it's like, yeah, we can put a team together. This is the framework. They don't finish building their team till like August 17th. Right. And then they're making a JUCO Jamboree October 2nd.
Right.
All these guys, those guys are crushing it right now. And we used to do tons of JUCO recruiting, and we were portaling before portaling was cool at UAlbany, because we would have 6 kids leave and 6 kids come in junior college, and we would get better in February and March. Like, if just because you're paying them doesn't mean they're that good. And again, those old timers, they already have their money, so it's easier for them to complain and leave. Like, I got my millies, I'm out. Like, good luck. This isn't for me. I mean,
just the whole recruiting landscape has changed completely, especially on the girls' side, and everyone's just kind of waiting and seeing. At least from an AU perspective, and doing it for 12 years and having kids recruited at Division I level and Division II and Division III levels. The Division III coaches have become super aggressive with recruiting, like where they used to kind of sit by and not really do too much. The Division II levels just sit on their hands. That's always happened for whatever reason. On the girls' side, Division II coaches just kind of wait there and wait to see if the Division I kids fall to them. And then Division I people are, there's coaches that haven't gone out yet for the live period from April or May that will now go out in July, and they've just watched and they've waited and they've been in the portal for 2 months. So it's crazy how much it's changed just from even 2 years ago when we had kids that were had offers to Rutgers and other ACC schools and Big Ten schools, and the coaches were actively calling me and having conversations and called me at 10 o'clock at night. That's completely flipped, where everything now is just kind of like there's a lot less relationship building.
So you got some time in your life back then, right? Because you're on the phone at 10 o'clock at night. Now you're dealing with people in the portal.
The what?
Now I said now you're just dealing with people calling about people in your former athletes in the portal.
Yeah, right? now that's when. And luckily, we have a lot of loyal kids, so that doesn't happen very much.
And I think in a majority of women in college basketball, like they care about their academics, right? The men's side, right. That's partly what I like about the women's side. Like they actually care about their academics. Men's side, you'd be like 20% actually care about what they get their degree in. And then if I'm a college coach, absolutely, I'm going to be in the portal, and because now I can have access to them all year round. That used to not be the case. And then I'm going to be older. And if I'm a good enough coach and you have a good enough core group, they're going to be able to bring those people in by February, March. And I'm not lying. That's really what we did at UAlbany. We would have to build a team. We would build a team. We'd have our core guys, and then we would have 5 or 6 new guys, and hopefully 3 of them panned out. And then you have a core 8. All right. And then you be good by February, because in the conference tournament time, you were hoping to play your best basketball. And then we usually were, and no one wanted to play us. But yeah, no, but I don't feel sorry for anybody. It is gigantic business with billions of dollars.
Yeah.
If everybody didn't pay AAU, no offense, $2,000, which I'm now getting into club soccer. I just got the price tag on that. And I'm like, woo. But we're doing it for the experience, right? If you just saved your money, and instead of doing it, and you could pay your first 2 years of college with the amount of money you're spending on youth sports and AAU. But I don't have a problem if you're saying, hey, this is for a family experience. This is for the life lessons that we're losing, or we're using this as vacations. Like, and if everybody's good with that, then I don't got a problem with it.
Yep.
You got all serious there.
Oh, me or Cap?
No. He. It's two different. He hears it from. It's just different, because now you got kids in high school like, why aren't I getting recruited by such and such? No, and my advice to them, like, go take the D2, go do work in the NE10, register if you want your first year, get your college paid for, have zero debt, and then go be. If you're good enough, you will crush it at NE10 at SNU with Karen Pinkos, and you're good enough, they're going to be able to move on and help you get a small NIL, or at least go to the Division I level, or maybe even better academic school than you probably couldn't have got into, because transfers are better. Like Albany, that's how I would sell it too. Come here. You go, hey, if you're good enough in 2 years, we will help you go wherever you want. They had Joe Cremo go to Villanova, had Logan Earhart go to Maryland. Who else? Was there somebody else that went too? And like, that's just the way it is.
I mean, the football kid, he was a top 15 pick from Florida State.
Florida State, yeah. Can't blame him. He got a lot of money. So I don't blame anybody. It is a business. It's always been a business. Those that tell you that it hasn't been a business, that it is strictly relationship and I care about you all the time, it's not the case. Like, the bottom line is, you said, when is winning important? Like, that's all about winning at that level, because it is such big business and there's so much money involved.
All this conversation just makes me think somebody needs to do a modern day remake of Blue Chips.
Blue Chips hasn't come out. Blue Chips was what was going on, Brian. That was just, no one was allowed to talk about it.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, 30 years later, now you can do a remake and base it around NIL and all that, instead of just focusing on, oh, you get a car or you get a tractor, like, you know.
There's a pretty good documentary on Netflix you can watch. It is Blue Chips. It's just real life Blue Chips with all the undercover wires and things like that with Sean Miller and those guys. So really interesting to see.
No,
go ahead.
No, I know it. Everything is a business. From youth sport, doesn't matter the sport that you're going in. That's your job in life, is to try to make money. And that when people college coaching, when Patino and Boeheim, my dad, and people were going back in the profession back then, they didn't do it for the money. TV and Dave Gavitt are the one at Providence that got the Big East going and made it, all right, this is a package. And then that started it, where now big money is involved, and they're the right time, right place. Timing is everything. And all those guys are able to roll through it and get paid at the end. And now everybody wants to get in it because they think that's how you can get rich. Listen, my dream. How about Monty Williams? Monty Williams gets fired from the Suns, gets 40 million or 30 million. See you later, and then he gets the Pistons job, and then they give him another 50 million. Like that's like the American dream in coaching.
Yeah, not like getting paid and absorbing an amount of money to sit at home. It's like, you know, it's kind of like how every year the Mets fans have to mourn the fact they pay Bobby Bonilla over $1 million for sitting at home 30 years after the fact.
Yeah, but we've talked about that. We've actually that came up in the golf tournament at the Herder Foundation that they've talked about having a settlement, but the guy for the Mets likes to have the press from Bobby Bonilla every year that he refuses to just pay one lump sum. So,
I mean, I also 1.9. I love it.
I guess
Good agent.
you know, I guess
30-year defer.
I guess any publicity is good publicity, I suppose, in that case.
Yeah.
All right, I have one more question. Well, I have a few more.
Yeah, I don't want to be your longest podcast. We can take some of this off.
Oh no,
too.
you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
You're good. We're not quite there yet. But all this talk about like transfer portal and NIL kind of actually makes me think of a question that could be a rather opinionated answer. There we go. There's the word. From a local standpoint, Carmen Massarello out at Siena, Jerry McNamara comes in from Syracuse. Do you think because you've also been around the area, and I'm sure you kept tabs on everything the last few years. In the end, do you feel like maybe that transfer portal NIL mentality is a part of what hurt Carm those last couple years at Siena before he was pushed out, or do you think it was something more beyond that?
I mean, obviously it had everything to do with it, right? Like
everything
at that level, it's hard enough to sustain a program with a fan base that expects Sweet 16 every year. And I personally know Carm. I great relationship with Carm. Carm went to UNH for 3 years, so we knew him when he was just playing at UNH, and then he came back to play to finish his year at Siena. No, he was a victim of his own success early, and those guys that left. I mean, you Pickett's in the NBA, right? The other guys are all high level and getting NIL money. Like,
McCollum went to, I think he's at Oklahoma now, right?
You know, he left Oklahoma.
He
was at Oklahoma, I'm saying, right?
For more money.
Yeah, more money, 100%. So it's an open market. There's just no way to track it. So, I mean, Carm, COVID year, probably would have won the conference tournament, go to the NCAA tournament. So he just gets regular season tournament of the COVID year. Then you get knocked out. Then you got to face Patino the other year. Like, tough go. And then trying to, I'm not going to speak for him. I think maybe you're like, hey, the old school way of be young, get them better, right? Siena can't do that in not enough time. And when you have a 3-year deal, you think 3 years, all right, I got a couple more to figure it out. That used to be the way thing. And like, no, and some people were happy to pay him to not coach anymore. And, and you can't go forward. You can't go forward in 20, whatever it was. So a victim of his own early success, could have had an NCAA tournament team once or twice. And dude, it's a brutal, brutal business. And even if your AD tells you you're good, more than likely you're not good. Like, that's just, it doesn't always come down to that. There's bigger people with more money, and Siena basketball is the New York Knicks of Albany, right? So yeah, no, portal NIL really, because you don't have as much money as you think. And if you miss out and give the wrong kids the right money, and then how are you dealing if you don't have money for everybody? Like, there's some kids getting none at this level. Like, that's hard to keep a team happy too.
Yep.
And the worst part is not for lack of trying, because like I know, like Scott Noel is big in trying to put together the initiative to really spread NIL within Siena, and it's almost like the actions from the last 18 months at Siena were almost more reactionary. And this isn't me trying to be completely negative, but just being honest about it. Like, it seemed the actions that were there on campus were a little more reactionary than being proactive in the end. But that's just how I feel about it.
They want to win. They've paid out head coaches before, so
yeah.
It just hasn't been an alum that I know of. I was a Griffin alum back then, as much as I followed it. But Yeah, the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Winning matters, right, Capitola? That's the bottom
Right.
line. What was the first question? When
Right,
does
that's what it
winning
comes
start
down to.
matter? Well, it definitely starts winning at every single year at Siena when they expect you to go to the Sweet 16. And listen, you
Yeah.
thought that you were at Albany, you go back to back. They're like, oh, and then you need to try to get better players, and then we try to get better players, and we got better athletes, but we didn't get better players, and then we won 7 games because it was we weren't good enough coaches to put them in the right situation because the stuff had already worked for 2 straight years of what we were doing, and we weren't good enough as a group to put these better athletes because we lost to Virginia in the NCAA tournament, and we need to get better athletes to be able to win a game. Like we weren't just happy, and that's probably product of your success. You're not just happy to be there. Now you're like, all right, we want to win the game. Not that was nice that we almost beat UConn, but then we get smacked by UVA as we're the upset of the 2007 upset, probably the upset of the tournament. And then nope, they won the ACC for goodness sakes. Of course they should smack us. So and then again,
UMBC did it. UMBC did it.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did, and he does a great job. No, loved every minute of that too.
But hey, that NCAA tournament game against Duke and the one against Florida, those were both, I felt at the time, winnable ball games at certain points. But that's just from memory. I don't have the exact thing.
Oh, you're right. We're right there, both of them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then UConn was the first one where we had the lead.
Yep.
Up 10 with like 7 or 8 to go, and then we just lost the legs. Then you learn by doing. But yeah, no.
Winning is everything. People ask me why. I've had a few people ask me the last couple months, why Cap? I don't know. He's won back-to-back Section 2 titles. He's back-to-back state Final Four. He runs a reputable AAU program. I don't know. I'll just throw it out there. But anyways, that's just me.
I did their game for NFHS Network or whatever.
Which unfortunately I haven't watched again yet, so I haven't been able to hear your voice.
You won by like 4. It didn't matter. Yeah, I mean, like you look at like how many times can I talk about? Oh, they're being more aggressive. Oh, they were 3/4 court. Wonder when he's going to call off the dogs, but that's not what they do. They want everybody to play.
I can honestly say, and I told my girls, I didn't know the actual score until probably like 3 minutes left, and I looked up and I'm calculating in my head like,
oh, is this the state Final Four game you're talking about?
This is the Final Four game, and I'm calculating in my head. I'm like, that's 31-30. I'm like, oh my god, we got a sub. Like right. No lie, you're in the moment. You're like, you don't even think about it.
No, and you think that you're like, how could we blow this game? How we're up 20? There's got to be a way. Coaches go to the worst possible place. It's never safe until the final buzzer goes. No, I just busted chops. Now you've run a great program, clearly. So I will never play you.
That was just me airing out some dirty laundry with a few people. That's all that was.
There's a reason I haven't reached out about scheduling.
And Dave was my AD at Mohonasen too. So when I was at Mohonasen, Dave was the AD there. So
there's nope. All set. Thanks.
All right, real quick.
We'll scrimmage. That helps.
There you go. There you go. All right, real quick before I let you go. I'll ask Cap, do you have any other questions before I get into it?
It's been great.
All right. Real quick. I've been doing this the last probably 3 or 4 shows, trying to get a feel for it. It's been kind of enjoyable, so let's see how it works with you. A section called Life's Most Important Questions. Just rapid fire, whatever your first answer is, just put it out there. Don't even think about it, all right?
Yeah.
All right, first off, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely not.
I had to ask because, you're the peanut butter and pretzel guy in a Martin's bun, so I feel like that would be an appropriate question for you.
Question. But if it's a hot dog, then it's not a sandwich.
All right. I'm not sure if you're a soda drinker, but if you are you a Pepsi guy or a Coca-Cola guy?
I try to limit the soda these days, but I mean I can do either. Some days it's Pepsi. You need a little different switch. Some days it's Coke, and also what's on sale.
Nowadays, that's the important factor is the sale. Good answer on that one. Do you prefer? Are you a chocolate guy or a vanilla guy?
We'll say chocolate.
Okay. What goes in the bowl first, the cereal or the milk?
The cereal. You're a lunatic if the milk goes in first.
We're in the same boat, but I know
That
two
question's
people.
undefeated so far. So
Yeah,
whoever
but I know
this,
two. I know two people who are doing it. So this is my way of trying to prove them wrong every single
And
show.
those
They're
two,
doing it the
those
wrong
two
way.
people are using a different side of their brain, right? There must be left-handers.
I suppose. All right. Last question in this section. If you're on a deserted island, who are the two people you would trust the most to help you survive?
That can get you in trouble. This question.
Well, I mean, is that your way of saying you're not sure if the wife is one of the two answers? I mean,
Yeah, no, my wife's got to be both answers. I'll just take her twice. Shelly's fantastic. I'll take my wife for both.
your wife, and then clone her and have Shelly 2.0.
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's the safe answer right
The
there.
robot version.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Yeah. So, Jerry, it's been a pleasure. It's been a tremendously insightful conversation, obviously. And I gotta say, as somebody born and raised in the area, like Cap, and who actually covered U Albany men's basketball for a while as part of the local ESPN radio affiliate in Schenectady, it's really good to see a former U Albany coach being able to continue his career on the high school level now. So I was very excited to see you get named the Guilderland varsity coach. So obviously, I wish you the best of luck. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and I'm sure we'll catch up again down the road during the season. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Just trying to get a little bit better every day.
Thanks, sure.
Have a good one, Jeremy.
Yeah.
All right, that was Jeremy Friel, the new Guilderland varsity girls head coach. And we didn't really get to mention this too much, but he did refer to it when he was talking about the Guilderland program at the beginning of the show. They only had one senior graduate from last year's team. It was a lot of, they had like 5 or 6 freshmen, I think, on the squad. It was a very, very young team, and very interested to see what he's able to do with all the youth that's come back, because now they're all going to be sophomores. They'll have a year of varsity under their belt. So obviously, you got working pieces in the cupboard that he's walking into, Cap. It's got to be, considering they're a AA school, and that's and all that jazz. That's not a bad situation to walk into if you had to pick one out of the Section 2 openings that were out there.
Yeah, for sure. In the Suburban in general, like what's the Suburban going to be in general? It's going to be a young league. You're going to have Colony with their young players, Shaker with their young players. Albany will be probably the most veteran team in terms of overall, in terms of all experience. But you'll have Saratoga have a super young team, Burn Hills super young team. So now's the kind of time to take a young team and see what they got. So,
and I have to say, as far as the Suburban Council, I'm really going to put out there who the biggest question mark of the entire conference is going to be. And this is not me casting shade on the program, because I have nothing but love for the program and the people involved. I think Averill Park's the biggest question mark, because they've been a personification of excellence, to give you some $2 words there. But obviously losing Taylor Holohan's going to be something to deal with. But obviously they still have Ahern, they still have Verardi, they still have Lily Wolleber, who will now be a senior. So it's going to be interesting, just because it's
first time in how many years, really, without a Division I player. Not that matters, but
let alone without a Wood sister on the team.
Right, without a Wood sister anymore. So that was the question before, and now there was no more Wood sister, and they answered that question, and now there's no more Taylor and Tot, and now he answered that question. So it'll be interesting to see.
It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be one of the most, maybe the most intriguing conference in all of Section 2. Just because of that factor alone, and then obviously you mentioned all the youth that's going to be in play. Very, very cool how things are panning out there in the Suburban. That all being said, by the way, you mentioned Burnt Hills. Our guest for episode 16, our next episode, will be Kevin Whitney, the head coach at Burnt Hills. So that'll be great to have him on. Known him for a long time, back to when his daughter played for Scotia with Megan Bowman as the head coach. So we'll definitely take a trip down memory lane there as well with Kevin. Thanks again to Jeremy Friel, new head coach for Guilderland Varsity Girls Basketball. And yeah, so that'll do that. That's episode 15. Don't forget, we're on Twitter at 84 Feet Podcast. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, stories, you want to make fun of Cap wearing a hat backwards during the show, 84 Feet Podcast at gmail.com. Any parting words of wisdom, Cap?
No, we're to the next Friday, so this isn't going to come out for a little bit. But if you skip this Friday's, which is right after Independence Day,
Shame on you.
Make sure you go back and watch and listen to that one.
Shame on you if you skip it. I'll tease it right now. It's entitled "Oh Captain, My Captain."
There we go.
Just
so if you've missed that one, go back, restart, listen to that one, then come back to this one.
Right. Let's enable that because one, the person we interviewed is now a captain of their basketball team, and two, I'm a sucker for Robin Williams. That all being said, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend or your day, your night, whenever you're listening to this. You can listen to 3 a.m. I don't know. Enjoy yourself, and yeah, we'll catch you next time. Toodles, Auf Wiedersehen.
Yes.